I was a high school classmate of his, and later we got into the same university and became roommates. He often left early and returned late, and every time it was me who covered for him. Occasionally, he would also ask me to run errands and buy some snacks and drinks. Or when he couldn't get up in the morning, he would ask me to answer the roll call for him. It seemed that I was very familiar with him, but in fact, we were just strangers with a slightly better relationship. The roommates also joked that he saved my life in my previous life. Matthew did save my life, so for things that are within my reach, I will try my best to help him. He is the heir of the Lin Group. I know that I can't help him much in my life, but I'm not used to owing others. Doing a little thing for him can also give me peace of mind. College life was peaceful and fulfilling. My daily communication with him was only limited to buying water and answering the roll call. I thought that's how my life would be. After college, it would be difficult for us to meet again. So I was so surprised when Matthew's father came to me. He's a strong-willed Omega and the head of the Lin Group. He never beats around the bush. As soon as he sat down, he dropped a bombshell. "You're William, right? I hope you can marry my son." I was a bit dazed. "Why me? You're the first person my son has liked in so many years." He gently stirred his coffee and then said, "I can give you 100 million yuan as long as you agree to marry my son next month." He said he liked me at the drinking party yesterday. The whole class went out for a small gathering and played Truth or Dare. Someone asked him if there was anyone he liked present. I was sitting next to him, a bit tipsy from drinking. He didn't like drinking, so he pulled me over. Whenever he lost, I would drink. Anyway, I was bored, so I didn't care. Who would have known that he neither did the dares nor told the truth, and always chose to drink, even though I had a good tolerance for alcohol. I got drunk. I was sure he wouldn't answer this question. I was groggy, shook my head, barely made out the shadow of the wine glass, and reached out to take it on my own initiative. The next moment, my hand stopped because I clearly heard him say, "Yes, there is, William." I was stunned, and a lot of the drunkenness faded away. I turned to look at him blankly. I saw a clear smile on his lips in the mottled colored lights. If it were me 6 years later, who was familiar with all his little gestures, I would have known that he was joking. If it were me 6 years later, I wouldn't have just stood there stupidly, waiting for them to burst into a ruckus and watching them play the next round of the game. If it were me 6 years later, I would have chosen to calmly reach out for the full glass of wine on the table in front of all the surprised looks and drink it all up without a drop left. Then I would look up, smile, and say, "He's joking," instead of wasting 6 years. At that time, I didn't know he was joking, but I still refused Carter. I take a serious attitude towards love, which is related to my original family. I hope I can marry the person I love and who loves me, instead of getting married to someone casually because of money. Carter never expected that I would reject him. His frowned eyebrows seemed to be saying that I was ungrateful, and because the situation was really urgent, he had to soften his tone. "I know this is a bit difficult for you, but Matthew has a special constitution. He is an S-class Omega, and ordinary inhibitors are useless to him. If there is no alpha to soothe him when he enters the heat next month, he will have a mental disorder." He sighed. Originally, I had prepared an alpha for him, but he refused. He said he had no interest in spending the heat with a stranger. But I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but was interrupted by Carter. "William, please. He has helped you and saved you. Can you help him just this once? After he reaches adulthood, you can get divorced. Please, he's my only child." I was silent. If it were someone else, I would have refused without hesitation. But if it's about repaying a kindness, I can't refuse. I hesitated and wavered. I told Carter to let me think it over. That night, I rarely suffered from insomnia. Sitting there all night, I took out my phone and sent a message saying okay to an unremarked number. Finally, I still agreed. In my senior year of college, we got officially married. I thought at that time that I could develop feelings for him. If there was still love in this marriage, it wouldn't be particularly hard to bear. However, his behavior was very strange. He seemed to love me, yet also seemed to loathe me. I've always been slow in perceiving emotions and simply had no idea what it meant. It wasn't until a few years later, when I fell asleep alone in the empty room time and time again and recalled the past over and over, I thought of that smile. I finally realized that was just a joke. When the photo was sent to my phone, I had just finished tidying up the flower shop. I've been feeling unwell these days, so I decided to close the shop for a few days. After getting married, the career I chose went against the employment direction of my major. The Lin family is wealthy and powerful. They don't really care what I do as long as I don't make a fool of myself in public. Fortunately, I'm quite handy, and the money I earn from the flower shop is enough for me to make ends meet. On my way home, I held a freshly bought sandwich in my hand and opened my phone. I saw that person again, the alpha that Matthew kept outside. Maybe it's not really keeping. That alpha works as an escort, and Matthew is just one of his big clients. I have no idea what's going on in his head. For a person in a role similar to a lover, instead of hiding him well, he often sends photos to provoke me. In the photo, the two were passionately kissing in the bar. I've seen this kind of photos so many times that I don't really care anymore. I calmly took a bite of the sandwich, and the taste of salad dressing spread in my mouth. Let's get a divorce. It seems that he has found his true love. Once a top-level Omega reaches adulthood, they no longer need the comfort of an alpha. Matthew reached adulthood just 1 year after our marriage. At that time, I wanted to get a divorce, but he was pregnant again. Actually, I quite like kids. When the photo of Matthew's first fling in the bar was sent by that alpha bartender, I thought about getting a divorce, but the child was still young at that time, so I endured it. Now, I don't know if the child is used to being raised by Carter. He is very close to Matthew and not very close to me. Obviously, at the beginning, as long as I left for a short while, he would cry nonstop. Now he even starts to dislike me. I slowly finished the sandwich and found Matthew in my contacts. Come home tonight. Let's have a talk, Datu. The other side didn't reply to me. Maybe he was still busy with other things. I put away my phone and stepped towards that place which I used to call home. Maybe this is the last time I'm walking towards it. Matthew came back at 2 o'clock in the morning. He turned on the light and was surprised to see me still sitting on the sofa. Haven't you gone to sleep? I turned back coldly and saw him reeking of alcohol. I didn't get up to take care of him like before. I sent you a message. Did you see it? He took out his phone in front of me and it took him a few minutes to find my message. I see it now. It was buried by other messages. Matthew said indifferently. He went to the kitchen to pour a glass of water and slowly walked towards me. I was sitting on a single sofa. Since he couldn't sit beside me, he had to sit across from me. It seemed a bit like a negotiation. Come on, what do you want to talk about? He put down the water glass, and the glass made a crisp sound as it touched the table. If you want to take Xiaoshi back, then there's no need to talk further. He will take over the Lin group in the future and needs to receive a proper education. He can only stay in the Lin family mansion. It's not about this. I interrupted his endless talk. He looked a bit stunned. Let's get a divorce. I continued. What did you say? He frowned, looking rather incredulous. Divorce. I repeated patiently. Tomorrow, I'll leave the marriage with nothing. You. Matthew took a deep breath to suppress his displeasure. If there's anything you're not satisfied with, we can discuss it. Xiaoshi is still so young. He can't lose his alpha father. I'm not dissatisfied with anything. I looked into his eyes in the dark, quite calmly. If you're worried about the custody issue, I can give up the child. I added, my only request is a divorce. Businessmen value profit, especially the president of the Lin Group. Matthew never does a losing deal and never gives an inch in the business world. I thought this deal was very cost-effective for him, and he had no reason not to agree. But he didn't respond for a long time and even impatiently tugged at his tie. William, Matthew stood up. I don't agree. Marriage is not a joke. Divorce won't do any good to anyone. Think it over again. If you have any dissatisfaction, just tell me. It's very late now, and I have something to do tomorrow. He lifted his feet and left the living room. I'm going to bed first, but I think a divorce would be good for both of us. I suddenly spoke up. Then I looked at his back as he left. I clearly saw him freeze for a moment and then quickened his pace to leave. It was like a hasty retreat. When I woke up the next day, Matthew had already left the villa. He slept in the master bedroom last night. I didn't want to sleep in the same bed with him, so I went to the second bedroom instead. But I'm a bit particular about the bed, and because the matter wasn't resolved, I couldn't fall asleep for a long time. It was 11 o'clock when I got up in the morning. I had no appetite for food. I drank a bowl of porridge and then spent the whole day reading in the study. Matthew still didn't come back, and I was too lazy to wait for him. Just as I put down the book and turned on my phone, another photo came in. This time it was a pair of clasped hands. I recognized the one wearing the watch as Matthew's. It seems to be that alpha again. It's very boring. That alpha always likes to provoke me. But perhaps he can help me. Let's meet. It was the first time I replied to his message. The other side stopped sending pictures and fell silent. I got up, put on a thin overcoat, picked up my phone and left the villa. I went to that bar. It had been a long time since I last came to such a place. The last time I came was for a part-time job. Later, Matthew thought it was a waste of time, so he quit the job for me and asked me to accompany him wholeheartedly. I didn't like the job at the bar anyway, So I wasn't dissatisfied. Later, I opened a flower shop and never went to such a place again. Now, looking at the dim and chaotic lights, I suddenly had a wonderful feeling of revisiting an old haunt. Suddenly, a pair of hands wrapped around my waist and almost hugged me in his arms. I turned my head in surprise and saw a tall alpha. His face was dimly lit by the lights. It was the alpha in the photo. I frowned, feeling rather puzzled, and reached out my hand to push him away. But the next second, he showed a smile, put his hand on the back of my neck and grabbed it tightly. Then he lowered his head and kissed my lips. Exclamation point. I was so shocked that I couldn't say a word and raised my hand to slap him. But my hand was caught by him again. He slowly pulled my hand to his lips. Then, in my shocked gaze, he opened his mouth and bit my palm. I hope we'll meet again. He smiled ambiguously, bypassed me and entered the dance floor, quickly disappearing from sight. I looked back in complete bewilderment, and my bitten palm ached faintly. There were 2 tooth marks left on it. I frowned and shook my hand with some disgust, searching for the restroom around. The next second, my wrist was grabbed again. I thought it was that alpha again and slapped his hand away forcefully. But he grabbed it again with an air of non-refusal. Are you crazy? I couldn't hold it back and turned around to slap him. But the next second, I met a pair of furious eyes. The owner of the eyes gritted his teeth, as if he wanted to devour me. William, you're doing quite well. A bright red slap mark appeared on his left cheek, having an affair right in front of me and still daring to hit me. It was actually Matthew. I frowned, looking utterly confused. What affair? What are you talking about? Matthew gritted his teeth. Who was that man just now? William, I wondered why you wanted a divorce, so you found a new lover. Have I been cold to you recently? If you want some excitement, I can satisfy you. I was utterly shocked. That's your affair partner. You're asking me who he is? Actually, in my impression, Matthew has always had an aloof and self-restrained image. But after hearing his domineering CEO remarks, I fell silent. Matthew, are you really crazy? I'm perfectly fine. He tightened his grip. You've scolded me twice for that, mistress. William, you're finished. I've never seen Matthew so angry. He pulled me to the passenger seat, locked the car door, and sped all the way back to the villa area. Matthew dragged me all the way into the master bedroom and threw me onto the bed. He could almost hold me down with one hand. Although he's an Omega, he's only a little shorter than me. Due to the cross-level soothing, I'm about to drop to level C, and my health is getting worse. Years of physical training since childhood allow him to punch 3 alphas with one punch. For someone like me, he can take on 6. Matthew, calm down. He didn't stop tugging at my clothes. Calm down? Can calmness erase the fact that my partner cheated on me? I shouted. I didn't cheat. He gave a cold laugh and said nothing more, just lowered his head and bit me. You never listen to what I say. I struggled violently. What on earth am I to you? A toy. There was silence. Let go of me. There was silence. Matthew, Suddenly, a sharp ringing sound cut through the cold and silent air. Matthew, who had been bowing his head and biting, stopped his actions, straightened up, and clicked his tongue irritably. He found his phone in the darkness, and the white light from the screen shone on his cold and handsome face. Not knowing what was said on the other end of the phone, Matthew put on the coat he had taken off. It seemed that he was going out. Yes, I know. I'll go there now. Matthew hung up the phone and looked down at me warningly. Don't go to those places again. Stay at home properly. After saying that, without waiting for my reply, he strode out of the room. After a while, the sound of a car leaving came from outside. After I confirmed that Matthew had really left, my tense body gradually relaxed, but I couldn't stop trembling. I suddenly started coughing. After taking a long time to catch my breath, I got up shakily, fumbled to lock the door, and leaned against the door frame, letting out a long sigh of relief. It was impossible to negotiate a divorce with him. I had to think of other ways. I found a number at the bottom of my phone and dialed it without the slightest hesitation. Hello, Mr. William. Outside the window, the blue sky was as clear as if washed, and the pure, white flower beds were filled with colorful flowers. This was my second time coming to the Lin family's old mansion. I had always been reluctant to come. Perhaps it's because I'm deceiving myself. I thought that as long as I didn't come back, my marriage wouldn't be so unbearable. Perhaps it's also because, are you here this time to sign the divorce agreement? The Omega on the opposite sofa sneered. You're finally willing to sign. I thought you didn't want your so-called love anymore, because the master of the Lin residence is too harsh. Carter slightly raised his chin. Even though we were both sitting, he still looked down at me. You were so decisive back then. I thought your attitude when you got married was just an act. It was after the 1-year term expired that Carter came to me with the divorce agreement, but I refused him. My family is really in a mess. Even though my parents are both alive, I feel like an orphan. Later, after I developed into an alpha and got into a prestigious school with excellent grades, life got a little better. I didn't want my child to experience the loneliness of my childhood back then, so I refused Carter. I said at that time, as long as there's a child, I won't get divorced, and Carter just sneered. You'll regret it. Now that I think about it, I spoke too soon. Daniel doesn't seem to need a useless alpha father. Just as you said back then, everyone has the possibility of regretting. Now it seems that you have rich experience, and what you said does make sense. So I regret it. I want a divorce. I looked at Carter calmly. I won't fight for the custody of the child. I hope he can grow up healthily, peacefully, and happily. It's not difficult. Carter obviously didn't expect me to be so calm. It took a while before she opened her rather sarcastic lips. Be so decisive now, and don't regret it later. If my son hadn't liked you back then, you wouldn't even have had the chance to step into my house. If you regret it later, don't pester us. I put on a polite smile. I won't regret it. I'll never regret it again. Maybe you've got one thing wrong. Matthew's liking for me back then was just a game, a joke. I quickly signed the agreement, and Matthew had already signed in his place when we got married. I've given 6 years, and I'll take 100 million. I pushed the agreement over. The Lin family is really generous. After saying that, I didn't look at Carter's expression and got up to leave. As a result, I hadn't walked a few steps when I ran into someone head on. It was Daniel, my former treasure. He was running over in a hurry, but the moment he saw me, he stopped in his tracks. Dad, his current expression is very similar to Matthew's. Cold and arrogant, there are many traces of the Lin family on him, but he is the least like my son. Seeing him sweating profusely, I took out a handkerchief, squatted beside him, and wiped the sweat off for him. After wiping, I stood up and was about to leave. What are you doing here at the old mansion? He finally said the second sentence after we met. Are you here to see me? Immediately afterwards, he frowned. I've said not to come anymore. I'm very busy and have no time to see you. I'm going to take charge of the Lin family in the future. Don't come and disturb me anymore. I smiled but didn't answer him. Then I turned around and left the old mansion. Then I threw the handkerchief in my hand into the trash can by the roadside. It was already 11 o'clock at night when I got back to the villa area. Looking at the empty master bedroom, I didn't show any emotion. Then I turned around and walked towards the cloakroom to pack my clothes. The divorce is coming soon. It's not appropriate for me to keep living in my ex-husband's house. Actually, we also had warm moments. I'm always in a daze during my susceptible period. He likes to bite my gland, even though I won't be marked by him. Every time my susceptible period ends, I always wrap my neck tightly. Although Matthew has reached adulthood, he still goes into heat, but it's very mild. With his constitution, he can just endure it and it will pass. But he likes to nest beside me. He keeps saying he likes me in my ear over and over again. He says he loves me. He talks about the future. But after it's over, he returns to his cold-looking self. It seems like these things never happened. So it turns out that just because of pheromones, he can tell lies called love. Since I've decided to leave, I should be more thorough. Early the next morning, I went to clean up the flower shop. I'm going to move to another city to live. But before I had cleaned up for long, the bell at the door rang. I looked up and saw an unexpected guest. A blonde-haired and green-eyed alpha. Matthew's cheating partner. He looked around. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. Finally found you. He walked quickly towards me. I was holding a flower pot in my hand. Seeing this, I turned around and put the flower pot between him and me. I looked at him warily. Is the mistress coming to my place to cause trouble? He completely ignored my attitude and still smiled. Hello, do you have white roses? I replied simply and neatly. No. Then I continued to tidy up the flower shop. Seeing that I ignored him, he finally showed a bit of grievance. Boss, have I ever offended you? I found it funny and gave him a proper look. What do you think? Are you talking about the time I kissed you forcefully in the bar the other day? He blinked. Oh dear, it was just a truth or dare game. I didn't do it on purpose. I apologize to you. It was another truth or dare game. I've already suffered from it and don't want to experience it again. I nodded perfunctorily. Yeah, I really don't sell roses. I have no hobby of selling my own pheromones. If you want them, go and buy them elsewhere. I don't sell roses. I don't want to be involved in anything related to Matthew anymore. All right, he looked a bit regretful and asked again. Boss, do you not like me? Hearing this, I finally stopped what I was doing. I looked up at him coldly and nodded. Instead, he laughed. But I really like you. I took a deep breath and frowned. Get out. Do you hate me because of Matthew? It seemed that he was naturally good at provoking people. He came here to provoke me. Maybe you've got one thing wrong. I'm just in a cooperative relationship with him. I'm not a bartender either. That was just a little joke I played on you. Besides liking to post those photos, he also liked to post what Matthew did in the bar. Once, he said that he was an alpha with a tragic background, working as a bartender in the bar, and he got to know Matthew because of a glass of wine. Turned out that he was also lying. Let's get to know each other. He reached out his hand. My name is Molly's. I'm Mr. Matthew's international cooperation partner. Maybe you smelled my pheromones on him. I'm very sorry for making you misunderstand. Seeing that I ignored him, he forcefully grabbed my hand. If I remember correctly, you and Mr. Matthew are getting a divorce, right? He smiled again, showing his 2 canine teeth. Is it because of me? I shook off his hand. You're being self-indulgent. Molly's leaned over and said, if it's not because of Matthew, what are you angry about? I didn't do it on purpose to let him be exposed to my pheromones. But who asked our compatibility to reach 92%? Well then, he reached out to tug at the pheromone blocker on my neck. I'll let you be exposed to mine. I didn't expect Molly's to directly go for my neck and I didn't dodge in time. A corner of the pheromone blocking patch was torn off. The aroma of roses spread and filled the whole flower shop. Oh, it's the smell. He sniffed. It's like I've bought roses then. I quickly pasted the pheromone blocking patch back on. Are you sexually harassing me? Molly's didn't deny it and shrugged. If I remember correctly, the gender law doesn't protect alphas, which means it's useless for me to call the police. I gave him a glare. He still didn't deny it. It was already 4 hours later when I got rid of Molly's. Thinking of his every move, I couldn't help shivering with disgust. While I was tidying up the flower shop, he either teased me or destroyed the flowers. He behaved himself only after I got angry. I sent some of the flowers to regular customers' homes and bundled the rest into flower bouquets for sale. But Molly's bought all the flower bouquets, including the ones he had damaged. Finally, I was free. After closing the shop, I took a taxi back to the hotel, trying to stay away from him. Molly's didn't pester me anymore. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking he had let me go. As a result, I saw him again after getting off the taxi. Don't get me wrong, I'm also staying here these days. He showed an innocent look. I simply didn't believe it, because he swiped his card to enter the room next to mine right in front of me. Before going in, he smiled at me. What a coincidence. After a day of work, I really didn't have the energy to care. I went into the room, took a shower, and then turned on my phone to choose a new hotel. But I don't know if it was because I was too tired. I fell asleep halfway through the selection. When I woke up again, I vaguely heard the sound of the room door being swiped open with a card. The raindrops hit the window, making a dull sound. A big hand grabbed my ankle exposed outside the quilt. I opened my eyes suddenly. In the dim room, a tall figure slowly approached. William, you're so bold. I heard his gritted teeth voice. You actually dared to get divorced. Have I indulged you too much on weekdays? You won't be well behaved until you really get some lessons. How did you get in? When I saw clearly who it was, I wanted to kick him away, but he was holding me. That kick seemed more like flirting. He let out a laugh. I didn't know if he was mocking my overestimation of myself or my ignorance. Don't you know? This is the Lin family's property. You've made no progress in 6 years. It seems I still have to teach you well how to be my partner. I reached out my hand to resist his approaching body. What do you want to do? We're getting divorced. The procedure has already started. If you don't leave now, I'll call the police. You can call, but don't forget, I'm an Omega. The gender protection law doesn't protect alphas. He held the phone in front of me. Go ahead and try. See who ends up in jail in the end. I saw the nonchalance on his face. And the malice. What on earth do you want? I was truly convinced. For the first time in my life, I cursed that new gender regulation that usually gives alphas a 13% discount when shopping. Matthew pinned my hands down and pressed himself on me. What's going on with that divorce procedure? Why did it suddenly appear without my consent? I took a deep breath. Because you signed the divorce agreement back when we got married. When did I? He stopped mid-sentence. Forget it. Don't talk about this. Now, turn on your optical brain and cancel it right away. Don't be so childish. Matthew, I'm not being childish. I explained seriously again. I really want a divorce. For 6 years, my rank dropped because of you, and I quit my job. Before we got married, I ran errands for you, acted as your subordinate, and served you wholeheartedly. Isn't that enough? Not enough. He immediately denied it. William, I've helped you and saved your life. Is your life really that worthless? A wave of helplessness welled up in my heart, and I almost lost the strength to struggle. But Matthew, do you love me? Matthew fell into an unusual silence and then scoffed. Sometimes I really think you're incredibly naive. You're 28 years old. Stop acting like a child. Can't a wealthy life satisfy you? Can you stop being so naive and childish? Does love really matter? Who in this circle gets married for love? There are so many couples in the circle who are together in name only. Which of them has really divorced? Marriage can go on without love. Stop being so sentimental. Okay, he was certain and deeply convinced. It instantly sapped all my strength. It was indeed a joke. All those vows were lies. I trembled a little and stopped struggling, looking at Matthew's face, which was cold and mocking. I didn't know what expression to put on. I could only say tremblingly, "But I've never been part of your circle," with a hint of a sob. Matthew, what on earth have these 6 years meant to us? What on earth have these absurd and ridiculous 6 years meant? Wait a minute. Suddenly, the light was turned on, and the whole room brightened up. I squinted my eyes due to the glare and turned my head towards the source of the sound. Molly's was leaning against the door frame, wearing a dressing gown and looking sleepy. "Mr. Matthew, this isn't appropriate, is it? Why are you still pestering your ex-husband after the divorce?" A teasing expression appeared on his face. "You were so nonchalant and indifferent at the dinner table. Why are you blocking the divorce now that he wants to end it? If I remember correctly, Mr. Matthew is supposed to be on a business trip abroad, coming back halfway." Mr. Matthew's attitude towards work. Molly's insinuation was almost hitting Matthew right in the ear. "It seems that our cooperation with your company still needs further discussion." Matthew frowned tightly, stared at Molly's for a long time, and then gave a cold snort. "What does it matter to you?" "It matters a great deal." Molly strode forward aggressively and almost instantly pulled Matthew away, then threw a punch. The two started fighting in the room, and in the end, Molly's, who was at the same level, had the upper hand. Matthew was pinned to the ground, with his head bleeding. Finally, the optical brain automatically called an ambulance. "You're quite good at fighting." Molly's sat on the ground with a few buttons on his shirt undone. "Your ex-husband still." Molly's face changed. "What's wrong with you?" He climbed onto the bed and wrapped me in his arms. I was stiff all over, my face deathly pale. I wanted to say it was okay, but my mouth seemed to be glued shut. It wasn't until Molly stroked my spine again and again that I seemed to regain my voice. "It's okay. I was just startled. It's an old problem." My voice was hoarse, and I coughed softly a few times. Molly's was still stroking my hair, and I didn't push his hand away again. He said in a joking tone in a soft voice, "I'm going to be arrested by the Omega Protection Association. If I can't come back, you have to remember to visit me. After all, I'm being arrested because of you." I didn't want to talk and just stayed silent for a moment. After a while, I heard him tentatively speak again. "How about I help you get back at him? Don't get me wrong. I just don't like him, but I like you." He helped me in high school. I suddenly spoke up and told Molly's a sad high school story of an ordinary alpha. With my excellent grades and the fact that I had developed into an alpha, I successfully got admitted to Telly High School. The publicity said it was a place to cultivate elites. I applied when I saw that tuition and miscellaneous fees were waived. That school was indeed full of potential social elites. That's why an ordinary alpha, seemed so out of place. The reason I was bullied was very simple. They said I was poor and didn't act like an alpha. I never expected to differentiate into an alpha in the first place. First, when I was beaten, I could still swallow my anger. Later, they deliberately chose the time when the cafeteria provided free food to beat me. I couldn't stand it anymore. Then I beat them up. Their parents shouted that they wanted to send me to jail, and the school also planned to expel me. In the end, it was Matthew who stepped in to save me. To repay him, I ran errands for him for 2 years. Later, there was a fire during the graduation party. He carried me out and saved my life. My life has become inseparable from his. Molly's was unusually silent for a while. "Did you marry him to repay the favor?" I didn't deny it. Then I heard his sarcastic voice. "A guy like him would save someone in a fire? I don't believe it. Did you see it with your own eyes?" "What do you mean?" "I'm saying, you can check his itinerary for those days. If I remember correctly, his medical records have the exact time." His words were highly indicative. It instantly made me think of the medical records Carter gave me when we got married. In order to let me know more about Matthew's condition, Carter sent me all of his medical treatment situations from childhood to adulthood. Now that stack of paper records is placed in the old mansion. Driving recklessly in the rainy night is the craziest thing I've ever done in my life. Molly's originally wanted to take me there, but he was caught by the Protection Association before we even left the door. I drove his car all the way towards the old mansion. After seeing my face, the security guard at the door didn't dare to stop me. I stepped on the accelerator and almost hit the flower bed at the door. I didn't bring an umbrella and got soaked all over. I rushed into the old mansion in a hurry, ignored the butler who wanted to ask me something, and ran all the way up to the second floor. The room Matthew and I used to have. I almost ran into the room. With a trembling hand, I opened the lock of the bottom drawer and took out the materials from 6 years ago. I quickly flipped through them, searching for the medical treatment time that I had never noticed before, accurate to the second. On August 12, 3098 in the interstellar era, at 14 star hours, 3 minutes and 49 seconds, entered the medical pod. Drug combination 1. Lasted for 6 hours. Those words stabbed straight into my brain, tearing my nerves. I almost felt dizzy. The rain dripped from my hair onto the paper, and the ink slowly spread out, like an ink dragon opening its huge mouth, swallowing me up. I felt a momentary blackout in front of my eyes. He was undergoing treatment on August 12th. Then who was the one who saved me? The door was pushed open a small crack. I stiffly turned my head and saw the face at the door that resembled Matthew's. Dad? He hesitated before speaking. Why did you come in the middle of the night? His face gradually became clearer. A handkerchief was placed on my cheek and gently wiped. Then my hair tips and roots. You're soaked all over. Why didn't you use an umbrella? He asked again. He tiptoed and pressed his face against my neck. It was Daniel, not Matthew. I realized this in a daze and, with all my might, forced a smile at him. But my mind was filled with the scene of waking up in the hospital back then. Matthew was wearing a hospital gown and sitting beside my hospital bed. After I opened my eyes, I heard his arrogant voice. You're finally awake. It's worth all the trouble I took to save you. I had just woken up and my mind was slow. Hearing him say this, I instinctively asked, Matthew, was it you who saved me in the fire? After a long while, I heard him give a soft snort and say, of course, it seems he has admitted it. Now that I think about it, during those silent few seconds, were you feeling guilty? Matthew, you lied to me. You've lied to me for 10 years. For a full 10 years, I've been living in your lies, unable to break free. When I came to my senses again, I found myself sitting in the Omega Protection Association. I had an intuition that Molly's would know something. As soon as the Protection Association opened the next day, I rushed in and applied to see Molly's. Molly's was brought in. Oh my goodness, dear, you've really come to see me. Even though he was detained, he remained unruly and even had the mood to tease me. Do you know something? He didn't answer my question. He stared at me for a long time before he let out a long sigh. Well, I do know a lot, including things about your childhood. I'm very sad that you've forgotten me. You like to get to the bottom of things. You like to talk to the grass. You like to save your dinner until before you go to sleep so that you won't be hungry when you sleep. You don't like to owe favors. So you followed Matthew around for more than a decade. You're bound by your sense of morality and have never lived for yourself. I won't tell you the truth. I hope you can have your own future. He was extremely serious. The future. I've never thought about this word before. In my impression, I had a small and shabby dwelling. It was equivalent to dampness, pain, and turbidity. It was a heavy black. There were always wine bottles piled up all year round, dark and without any light. I had 2 playmates, 2 blades of grass under a tree. The environment in the border area was extremely poor, and there were very few green plants. We grew up together in the mud, surviving every spring, summer, autumn, and winter. In the dim basement, I couldn't tell the difference between day and night. I didn't know when tomorrow would come. I only knew that time would bring hunger and endless dampness. Naturally, I didn't look forward to tomorrow. After all, I had no tomorrow. Later, I escaped from the border area with someone, and we had a home. But that person left in the year when I was 18, leaving only a note. I was abandoned. I said this to Molly's, but the next second, Molly's reached out and ruffled my hair. You haven't seen the outside world yet. How do you know you have no tomorrow? Well, go get the divorce certificate first. After the divorce, I'll go with you to see the outside world. I'll be your tour guide. Then, he lowered his voice again. Don't be in a hurry. I'll be out soon. Don't say such discouraging words anymore. Didn't you tell me when you were a kid that you wanted to travel around the world with your 2 grass friends? I still remember it. He winked at me, showing a smile as sweet as honey. Before I left, I asked Molly's to help me prepare a contract. Although it's not very humane to ask someone in custody for help, he is indeed one of the few reliable people I can find. I drove Molly's car to the old mansion again. The divorce certificate will be directly sent to the Lynn residence. I need to do a little final work. Since Matthew is not the one who saved me, I don't need to accommodate him anymore. Let's just consider those 6 years as repaying the kindness he showed by bailing me out. I opened the car door and immediately saw Daniel standing at the door, crying loudly. As soon as Daniel saw me, he rushed over and threw himself on me. Unable to hold back his sobs, his voice trembled a little. Dad, are you going to divorce father? Dad, don't you want me anymore? I gently patted his back and comforted him in a low voice. I picked him up and entered the old mansion. Matthew had a bandage wrapped around his head and was sitting on the sofa with a pale face. He was looking at me, knowing that he couldn't stop what was happening. There was no longer the usual coldness on his face. I turned to ask the butler, "Where's the divorce certificate?" The butler handed me the divorce certificate. After getting the certificate, I let out a long sigh of relief. "Are you that happy to divorce me?" Matthew's face darkened. "William, don't regret it. I won't let you see Daniel in the future." He seemed to have caught hold of my weakness again. But I had said long ago that I didn't want the custody. The child won't be my weakness. I put Daniel down and took out that contract from my bag. The 100 million that the Lin family gave me, I voluntarily give it to Daniel. Daniel suddenly nervously grabbed my sleeve. "Dad, don't leave me behind." I stroked his head again. "Only in the Lin family can you receive the best education and become a very powerful person. Just like the hero in the story we told before. This 100 million is the most expensive gift I can give you. If you want to see me in the future, you can call me. But father said that only if I work hard and be obedient. Will you be better in the future?" As if suddenly thinking of something, he turned to shout at Matthew. "You lied to me. You don't have your father's love. So why did you make me lie and leave my father? You're a liar." Matthew's face darkened completely. "Butler, take the young master to the second floor." After saying that, regardless of Daniel's loud objections, he walked straight up to me. Daniel was dragged upstairs, struggling all the way. The surroundings gradually quieted down. I didn't have an affair. Those photos were just for show. "If you mind this, I won't do it again in the future. I know you don't really want a divorce. You love me. As long as you withdraw the divorce, I can act as if nothing happened," he said with a reluctant and a bit awkward tone, as if bestowing some kind of favor on me. I was amused by him for the first time. I couldn't hold it back and laughed a bit loudly. "What do you mean?" He frowned. I laughed for a while and finally stopped. "If you did this to play with me, then you're very successful because I really served you like a servant for 6 years. But Matthew, I really think you're so pathetic. With a domineering father, you've even lost the ability to love. No one will really love you. No one." I took out that medical record from my bag and slapped it hard on his face. "Yes, you didn't have an affair, but our marriage has been a lie from the very beginning. Your father doesn't love you. Your partner doesn't love you. And even your son doesn't love you. If I were you, I'd just go and die." Looking at the shock on his face, I felt a long-lost sense of relief. The shackles on my body finally broke. After leaving the Lin residence that day, I gathered my courage and left City Y for abroad. Molly's accompanied me. We went to the desert, climbed the snow-capped mountains, lay in the flower valley, and felt the tranquility of the countryside. It was very quiet, as if there were only the two of us. Once, I asked him again who he was. Under the star-filled sky, he lay on the grass, with a blade of grass in his mouth. "I'm sort of your childhood playmate." A look of sudden realization appeared on my face. So it turns out that grass can turn into a human. Molly's could tell at a glance what I was thinking. "I'm not those two blades of grass," Molly's shouted, interrupting my wild imagination. Molly's suddenly sat up and nervously ran his fingers through his hair. "My hair used to be black." I thought for a while and finally found a figure deep in my memory. So it really was him. I smiled, and Molly's pounced on me. "Stop laughing. I've already said I'm not those two blades of grass. So it turns out I have so many friends. So it turns out I also have a future." Matthew's extra story. My name is Matthew, the only heir of the Lin family. My A father passed away early, leaving only my O father to raise me alone. Nowadays, the economic environment is not good. It's even more difficult for an Omega to make a name in the business world. I really understand the hardships of my O father, so I always strive to be the best in everything. I've hardly ever gone against his words. Even when I was punished to kneel until midnight or when I was trained in strength every day to the point of exhaustion, I never complained at all. The first time I went against him was in high school. I insisted on protecting an alpha who was of ordinary rank and whose class was so low that in my father's eyes, his father was a social pest. After protecting him, I was sent to an undeveloped dense forest for half a month's training during the summer vacation. Although I had to lie in the treatment pod for 3 days when I came back, I was very happy because I gained a little follower. The kind of little follower who follows behind you and will unhesitatingly meet any outrageous request you make. Yes, his name is William. William is also a well-known figure in Telly High School. Poor, gentle alpha who is as all-embracing as water. A beautiful alpha. To be honest, if he were an omega, countless upper-class children would go crazy for him. But it's a pity that he is an alpha who can knock down the upper-class kids. I've vaguely heard about the fact that he was bullied from the omegas who admired him. Occasionally, I could still see him lying on the ground when he was beaten badly. Took him a long time to get up, and then he slowly went to have a meal with his lunchbox, not caring about his injuries at all. Later, those alphas did something that completely enraged William. William sent all those who bullied him to the hospital. He is so good at fighting. It's not because I'm kind that I protected him. It's because he beat up my rival. It's really satisfying to see those arrogant alphas who think highly of themselves as elites lying in the hospital with bruised faces. He staged a great show for me, so naturally I have to protect him. Maybe I'll even see an even bigger show. One day, he came to me and said he wanted to thank me. He asked me, "What can I do for you?" After thinking for a while, I said, "Since you're so good at fighting, be my subordinate from now on." Just like that, he became my subordinate. Our interactions gradually increased. As I mentioned before, he is a well-known figure at Telly High School, not only because of his appearance, but also because of his personality. He doesn't seem like an alpha. It's true that he is gentle, and it's also true that he never loses his temper. With a head of black curly hair, he looks extremely soft, which makes people have an urge to ruin him. But the reason why he is gentle and never loses his temper is that he loves to be in a daze. Once when I was talking to him, he started to be in a daze again, staring blankly ahead. I couldn't help but ruffle his curly hair. "Why are you always in a daze?" He came to his senses and slowly uttered a single word: hungry. Being in a daze can reduce energy consumption. Seeing him say these two sentences so seriously, I couldn't help laughing out loud. He seemed not to understand why I was laughing. He stared at me for a while and then started to be in a daze again. I can't stand it anymore. How could there be such a cute alpha? He is simply not of the same kind as those smelly and arrogant ones. I pulled William up. Forget it. I'll take you to have a meal. Don't let my little brother starve to death." I got along with him for 2 years until we graduated from senior high school. On the day of the class reunion, I couldn't go because of my pheromone disorder. I originally wanted to confess my love to William that day. Unexpectedly, the next time I heard about him was the news that he was hospitalized because of a fire. I had someone transfer him to the Lin family's private hospital. I sat by his bedside and watched over him all night. I gathered all the information about the fire and learned that a black-haired alpha saved him. William is a person who values relationships and loyalty. I only saved him, and he was willing to be my follower for 2 years. What about the debt of saving his life? Will William's attention be drawn to that alpha? I won't allow it. William can only look at me. I watched him slowly open his eyes and asked that question. "So, it was you who saved me?" I was silent for a while. I never thought that fate would favor me like this. William actually didn't know who saved him. I admit that I'm selfish, cold, and hypocritical, but as long as I achieve my goal, does it matter what kind of person I become? It doesn't matter, not at all. Getting what I want is the most important thing. Anyway, that alpha is on the verge of death. As long as he dies, William will never know the truth. In this way, the only person William can see is me. William is still my subordinate. At the party in our senior year, I pulled him over to drink with me. I watched him drink until his eyes became hazy. The wine bottle on the table was spinning, and the truth-telling game landed on me again. The question this time was, among all the people present, "Is there anyone you like?" William shook his head and reached out to grab the wine glass. However, I got the idea of teasing him. "Yes, there is. It's William." Seeing him standing still in place, I laughed again. "William, you fool. I like you." Who would have known that a week later, my father handed me 2 agreements. They were completely blank. "Sign them. Once you sign, you can be with that poor alpha." Who else could it be? "Isn't it that curly-haired follower beside you?" I frowned. How did my father know about William? My father has a strong desire for control. As long as it's something I like, he'll destroy it. Why him? Didn't you say you liked him yourself? This time, you have to protect him on your own. Don't blame me for ruining your things again. My father wrinkled his nose in disgust and said, "Why do you always like such fragile and poor things? Just like your father. Not presentable at all." I silently lowered my head and didn't say another word. Father pushed over 2 blank agreements. "Sign them. I've already asked that alpha, and he's already agreed. Or rather, are you willing to let him slip through your fingers? Of course not. I didn't hesitate any longer and neatly signed the agreements. Only then did father show a satisfied smile. He had guessed my thoughts once again. I know my family is a bit dysfunctional. William won't like it, but he agreed to marry me, which means he also likes me. He's always been very serious about marriage. As long as I protect him well, nothing will go wrong. He and I will be very happy, very happy.